Ballistics by design is straightforward. A projectile remembers the barrel that fired it. When those marks do not align, the presumed connection between bullet and rifle collapses, and with it, the foundation of certainty. According to authorities, a single .30-06 round was recovered from Charlie Kirk's neck, intact, forensically examined, and consistent with an entry wound that did not exit. Investigators also reportedly recovered a bolt-action rifle, described in charging documents as a Mauser M98, wrapped in a towel on a rooftop near the lecture hall. Shell casings and a screwdriver were found nearby. DNA from the towel and the screwdriver has been reported to match the suspect named in the case, 22-year-old Tyler James Robinson, who was subsequently arrested and charged. On paper, the case appears tidy: projectile, weapon, physical items linking a named suspect. In practice, however, the connections that would ordinarily transform these elements into proof remain, at least publicly, incomplete. First, and most central, the ballistic linkage. A bullet carries striations, microscopic grooves, from the barrel that fired it. A conclusive forensic match between the recovered bullet and the recovered rifle would ordinarily be a cornerstone of prosecution evidence. Yet to date, no unambiguous, publicly released ballistic report or comparative images have been produced to confirm such a match. No forensic photographs, no published striation analysis, no independent verification of a barrel-to-bullet identification have been made available to the public record. Second, a written note allegedly attributed to the suspect has been described in news briefings and charging documents as containing an admission or intent. Investigators say the note once existed. Later, they say it was destroyed. How, when, and by whom it was disposed of has not been made clear in the public record. The content of a document that could bear on motive and intent is now part of the narrative, but the document itself is reportedly unavailable for scrutiny. Third, we have reported statements about a confession or admissions attributed to the suspect. Accounts vary. Some briefings have referenced statements the suspect allegedly made. Other accounts describe limited cooperation or silence. Reportedly, there is no full recorded confession in the public domain, and no transcription or unredacted interview has been released. Without a complete record, it is difficult for outside observers to assess the context, voluntariness, or reliability of the statements that have been cited. Fourth, the DNA evidence. Public statements indicate that DNA from the towel and screwdriver match the named suspect. What has not been publicly demonstrated, at least not in the materials released for scrutiny, is a clear forensic chain that ties those DNA findings directly to the firearm's handling or discharge. There is no publicly available documentation showing the suspect's DNA on the rifle's stock, trigger, bolt, or casings in a way that would directly link handling to firing. Chain of custody documentation, lab analyses, and methods are cited in briefings, but have not been released for independent review. Fifth, there are unusual and unsettling details that have been widely reported, but poorly sourced in the public record. Details that, if true, demand thorough forensic corroboration. One such detail, an engraving on at least one bullet with a juvenile phrase. If accurate, that personalization could suggest motive or an identifiable pattern. Yet there is no public forensic connection between such markings and the suspect. No handwriting, provenance, or prior examples establishing a link. Surveillance and scene documentation present additional gaps. Cameras purportedly covered the area and the building. Charging documents reference a gravel sniper's nest on the rooftop. Still, the public has not been presented with a complete rooftop timeline, full surveillance footage, or unedited views that would illustrate how the rifle was positioned, how it was moved, or who approached the ledge. Photographs that would corroborate the scene description have not been widely verified in the public arena. There are also questions about witnesses and testimony. A retired deputy has been cited as a recipient of an alleged confession. That individual's identity, sworn testimony, and the circumstances under which any admission was received have not been fully disclosed in open sources. Important witness statements should be subject to cross-examination and corroboration. Absent that, they remain partial. Taken together, these omissions are not trivial. They are procedural and evidentiary gaps that separate a confident public narrative from the forensic proof required in court. Press conferences and authoritative statements can project clarity, but clarity requires documentation. Lab reports, forensic images, and unredacted investigative records are the instruments of that clarity. This documentary does not seek to substitute speculation for evidence. We will make clear distinctions between what is reported by authorities, what has been disclosed publicly, and what remains unknown. Where official accounts exist, we will cite them and note their provenance. Where evidence has not been produced publicly, we will identify that absence and explain why it matters. For the victim and his family, Charlie Kirk's family, the stakes are deeply personal. Whatever one's view of his public life, the facts of what happened to him must be established with rigor, not shaped by convenience or narrative. His survivors deserve thoroughness, transparency, and accountability. For the public, the stakes are civic. We grant institutions the authority to investigate and to speak on our behalf. In return, those institutions owe a degree of transparency that allows scrutiny of methods, chain of custody, and conclusions. When evidence is summarized but not produced, when notes are described but destroyed, when investigative statements outpace demonstrable forensic links, reasonable doubt is not a conspiracy theory. It is a call for the evidentiary record. So we will ask the questions other outlets have raised. Which parts of this chain are verified by public forensic documentation? Which remain proprietary to investigators? Who handled, signed for, and preserved the evidence? What do the lab reports actually say? When material is reported as destroyed, who authorized that action, and under what protocols? This investigation is not about undermining law enforcement. It is about demanding standards. Justice begins with precision. If key links, ballistic confirmation, preserved writings, complete interviews, transparent chain of custody, are missing from the public record, then a national narrative outruns the material facts that must support it. We invite you to join this inquiry. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Tell us which omission you find most troubling. If you want updates, subscribe and activate notifications. Our coverage will follow filings, forensic releases, and court records as they become available. This program will differentiate what has been claimed from what has been demonstrated, and we will do so carefully, methodically, and with respect for the legal process. Because in a case like this, where motive, means, and opportunity are asserted, the difference between performance and proof can determine whether justice is achieved or justice is deferred. In the silence that follows confident declarations, we will listen for the evidence,